I mean, what are you even getting out of a barrel of 80 here? You're going to get a couple spoonfuls?
Well, think about this. They're using used barrels.
True. So, okay.
They're in a different climate. So you're not getting the same kind of
evaporation,
and they can rotate however they need.
Wow. All right. So that's my standard. 80-year scotch. That's the standard now. That's my baseline.
The Fred Minnick Show is brought to you by 291 Colorado Whiskey, by Michter's, and by Heaven Hill Brands.
All right, and joining the Fred Minnick Show in my studio, I got this arranged special just for you, Jared. The great Jared Allen, soon to be in the National Football Hall of Fame, or Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, man. This is a cool deal. It's always nice to. Last time I did this, I was in Tahoe, so it was quite some miles between us, but I don't live too far from you, so it was nice to shoot on up here and do this. And hopefully third time is the charm, and I get that nod. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, this is we just had lunch, and you said you're like, you're not answering the phone right now.
Well, the last two times, I got a phone call from the hall, and that ended up being no bueno for me, right? So
how did they approach that?
They call you and they just say, "Oh, sorry, wasn't your year this year. Don't tell anybody," and then they hang up on you for the most part, right? Like,
wow,
better luck next time. And then last year I still had some interviews up until they reveal everybody on the show. I had to call my publicist, and I was like, I'm not gonna do interviews pretending like I still have a chance. No, I don't have a chance. So
wow.
Hopefully, I don't know how the system's gonna work this year. I am grateful though, because I have had friends in the past that have had to go out to Super Bowl for the old way they used to do it.
Yeah, you were in a hotel room,
and you're
right?
in a hotel room, and you either get a phone call or a knock. And for me, I just am like, it's just, that's a bit much. Like, you imagine having your wife dressed up, you're all in a suit, ready to go down to some event, you don't know if you're getting in. So I've seen the total just like drained face of emotions from from people that didn't get in and had to go through that process. So I am grateful that I get a phone call or not knock, but I get to do it at my house. I don't have to be dragged through the dog and pony show too much.
Did they give you like a window?
No, I think I'm within the window though. I mean, I know they have to plan some travel, so it's pretty close here.
Okay. Well, just so you know, like, you're welcome to, if you get your phone on, you can take the call here if you want. But
I just don't want to cry on the air. If it's a phone call, I'm like, oh no.
You should also probably be around your family for that.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, harsh. That's harsh. I'll leave it on the voicemail.
But I will say this: we've got plenty here to celebrate, or
or cry. Yeah, I mean, either way, I might have to Uber all the way back to Nashville. You know what I mean?
So you brought me a little sample here. It states MGP of Indiana, proper rate jam, JAM, blend 2115, 75% 21% rye, and then 25% 45% wheat, and that's the wheat of bourbon. Proof 116.7 proof. And this would have been bottled before Christmas, 12/12/2022. What's this all about?
So that is a little project my buddy and I are doing. And we got together a few years back and decided we wanted to kind of create our own bourbon. But, didn't want to go through the whole build a distillery, spend all that money, wait all that time. We wanted some 10-year juice. So we started sourcing, and I think the bourbon world has shifted. You would be a better historian on this than I, of course, to where, I can remember when I first started drinking bourbon, like, if it wasn't Kentucky straight, if it wasn't from Kentucky, it just wasn't worth anything. Like, people would try to hide the fact that their juice was from MGP or sourced outside of the state of Kentucky.
Right.
Or everybody had to have a distillery, right? Because you had to have your own secret mash bill, all that. And so I think that shifted some. But my buddy and I, we just kind of embraced that, the fact that I'm like, if someone is the number one producer of something, they probably do it pretty well. And so we kind of started going through the process because it was going to be boutique. It was going to be something kind of for us. And if it hit and we, made a couple bucks, great. If not, Christmas presents for some years to come. And so we started going through the process with MGP, and they've been fantastic to work with, sending us samples and tasting. And then we kind of we got into this, well, we didn't really like this. We wanted a wheated bourbon, but, we didn't really like what the wheated blend, was. And then we really liked the rye, but we thought it was missing something. And so we ended up, coming back and mixing and getting actually a 4 grain with you out of the malt and barley. And it's something that we were like, dang, this is pretty good. Even, and our wives, my wife's not the biggest bourbon, she doesn't drink whiskey really much at all, but she has a good palate. And she was like, that's not too bad. And so we put it in a barrel. We said, hey, let's let it sit for roughly another 5 years and see what happens. And so we've been pulling samples, roughly every 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And it really jumped from last year to this sample. And it's just everybody I've tasted it, we got nothing but positive feedback. So, of course, you don't get to actually say it's good until you get the official Fred Minnick seal of approval. You know what I mean? So, but anyways, it's just been a fun pet project we're working on. I don't know where it's going to go. I kind of like that Kentucky Owl model of this is what we have when we have it, come and get it. But it's definitely something that we've enjoyed the process, and it took months to get to this place. And then, watching it age has been a fun deal, and then kind of seeing people's reactions to it, right? Mm-hmm. My only stipulation when I give it to people to try is that I get your honest feedback.
Sure.
And because that, again, you would know better than I, of how we want to age it. Do we want to do, is there a cap on what it's going to do? Is it going to, come back? And then obviously your yield drops dramatically when you get into the 8, 9, 10 year plus range. So, we're just kind of trying to find those profiles. And I think, it's been fun to taste, and I actually have some recordings and notes taken from people I've let sample it, from last year to even when we first got it, and just to see the color difference and the flavor difference, and to where you're kind of like, it's not bad, till all of a sudden you're like, wow, that's pretty good, right? So it's just been a fun journey, and that's what it is. It's a journey. I think that's what bourbon's about, right?
Absolutely.
And our main philosophy behind it was, my buddy's a complete geek, right? I always say there's 3 levels of there's drinkers. There's the people out taking their shots. There's people like me who enjoy good booze, enjoy a good bourbon. I can speak to it with some sort of, I can have a conversation about it. But at the end of the day, I don't know if rose petals, peppercorns, and pecan husks are involved. But then my buddy, and guys like you with much better palates. So, we kind of came up with this philosophy, like, I want someone else to worry about the juice. I want to enjoy who I drink it with. And I think we found a good balance.
All right. Well, I tasted this before we had lunch, and my first impression was I really, really liked it. I thought it was, it reminded me of a lot of the good MGP blends that are out there right now, which, if you can buy from MGP, I don't know why you wouldn't. It's an incredible distillery. So that's a good hookup. Not a lot of people can get that, Jared.
Yeah, you know what? It came about organically. Like I said, it's about who you know in this life, right? And I got lucky to be a former Kansas City Chief, and my guy David Dykstra down there, he brought us in as new clients, especially at such a low level, right? We didn't buy nothing but a handful of barrels when we first came out, and so to be able to come back and buy some more and continue that relationship has been fun. And like I said, we got to go tour the factory out there in Indiana, which I highly recommend if anybody has the opportunity to do and hear the history about how it's the old Seagram's plant they bought, and about why it's there. I assumed it was there because of the Ohio River coming down, and they could import, export, all that stuff, and it actually has everything to do with the aquifer it sits on. Right, it sits on one of the largest aquifers in the area. They're pulling water straight from there, and the Seagram's plant was built. I'll probably mess this up, but it's almost 100 years old, right?
Yeah, it's built in the 1800s.
1800s, and so a couple hundred years, and they're the forward thinking on that plant is insane. And so from the historic standpoint, it was super cool to see how, what, where, why it's made, and just the abundance of corn coming through there, and all the different mash levels and computers that run it. It was a cool deal.
But if I'm to break this down, it's quite tasty. It's 116 proof. The one thing, it's got some citrusy on the nose. Feels great on the palate. Yeah, this is quite good.
I appreciate it. I remember when we first tried it before we went, different levels of the wheated on it too, was that, sometimes you drink those higher proofs, at least for me, your palate kind of you almost get that waxy taste at the back end for me. I don't know if that's from like your palate getting fried or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that was what we were kind of trying to avoid, was that, how do we take something, I'm a big fan of barrel strength stuff, but keep it smooth enough to where, you're not watering it down too much.
Right.
Or even having something that because I'll put a cube on anything, but that you still get the same flavor profiles, right? And so it's like I said, so far so good. And yeah, I mean, you almost get that. For me, I get that hint of the sweet of the wheat that kind of helps finish out the strong rye. I think the most unique thing we've gotten feedback on is that for wheated, or for a 4-grain, right? It was actually what it is that there's not a whole lot of heavy rye 4 grains. And, I guess rye is probably one of those, you like it or you don't. I happen to like a
I love rye.
Yeah.
Rye is a really good. It is hard for a lot of, like, my wife doesn't like rye, unless it's like 25 years old, which at that point it's, you're tasting just great whiskey. But like rye and bourbon, the higher you go up, the more spice can pop out of it. Yep. If it's, younger ryes tend to taste better than young bourbon. So rye can really, bolster a whiskey in a big way, especially if you're doing a blend. So that I've had that 45% wheat by itself at this age. And, what you have here is, 2 or 3 times better than that.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. So
just cut the tape right there. Let's go to market.
and I'll say too, like, we were talking before, like, when is the right time to bottle this, right?
Yeah,
do you bottle it?
Question.
Do you let it sit for a few more years? And I think MGP historically for me has not done that well after 10 years old. Most of the stuff that you see that they put out is like that people are bottling is 6 to 8 years old.
Yeah,
and I think that's a real sweet spot for that, and that's one of the cruxes of a distillery. Like, a lot of these distilleries know who they are. Like Jim Beam, and they know who they are. Wild Turkey, they know who they are. MGP, they only came into possession of that Lawrenceburg, Indiana distillery in 2011 to 13.
Yeah, I'd say relatively. Like,
it was 10, so they're not. They still don't know what their product is, and plus they changed their model a lot. They were just kind of selling their
neutral spirits and ingredients.
They were just selling, right? They were just selling their stuff to other people. And now they're bottling their own stuff with their Remus line and so forth. So,
and Remus has actually really taken off. I mean, that's been one of those ones that's really kicked in. I think that's kind of to help establish, we were talking about earlier, just kind of that stigma of MGP or Indiana or anything sourced, right? And then Remus came along, and people were like, "Oh, this isn't bad." But if you go through and look, I'm always shocked if you pick up a good bottle of bourbon. A lot of the times it says, Indiana on it. People just forget, they don't advertise it. But we've been happy with the project. We've been having fun with it. You're literally the first person we've actually talked about it outside, just friends, family, and some circles. So it's been a cool deal. We kind of have a name. We don't really know if it's gonna stick. We got some marketing meetings tomorrow.
Well, don't say that. Don't say the name here, because so, unless you have a trademark.
No,
someone listening to this like,
absolutely
my name now.
Absolutely not. So but that's also the fun part of the process, right? But our first and foremost is to focus on the juice and keep that elevated. But
that's the right way to go about it. It really is. has this process been in any way, shape, or form like playing football? You got a team around you. Like Peyton Manning when I was talking to Peyton gave this analogy of like how, Marianne Eves was the quarterback and so was offensive lineman. I was like, that's interesting.
So we haven't gone down that road yet because I don't think we're far enough into the weeds on distribution and where we want to go with that. Because, ideally our mindset was 10 years, which right now, and like I said, we're at 7. And so, they were kind of getting that mold of like, all right, within the next few, we need to have everything, ironed out. So we're still early in that stage, but I look at it more as the relationship between a player and a coach, right? So I look at this more as strategic partnerships. When you're going, having the right people help you in the right areas is big. I think they're a little different because I think they're distilling down there at Sweetens Cove, right? If I'm
no,
correct.
not yet.
Oh, they're not. Okay.
No.
Okay. So, I look at it from the same standpoint of athletics in my football career is that you have to constantly be learning, right? You have to be gaining knowledge. And the minute you think that you're too good to learn from your mistakes is when things fall back in your face. But, I also, I'm very detail oriented in that aspect, like I was in football, to where if you take care of the details, the rest of the stuff will fall in place. We used to always say you have to earn the right to rush the passer, right? If you're so worried about rushing the passer, you forget about the run, you're actually never going to get a chance to rush the passer. And if you're trying too hard to get these sacks and you lose your technique and your fundamentals, you're not breaking down an offensive lineman properly when you're rushing, you're actually not going to get the sacks. So you're actually going to do more damage trying too hard. So that's kind of how I look at this. I like taking it step by step. I like to listen. Same way when I hunt. I've been hunting for years, but anytime I have a guide, I'll pretend like I've never hunted before, and I just try to gain as much information as I can. So I've been lucky to be surrounded by and know some people in the industry. Obviously yourself. So it's nice to have the first time to chat with you about it. I know some of the people over at Proper 12. Just owning a restaurant in
full
Arizona.
Disclosure, that's way better than Conor McGregor.
I appreciate it.
By the way, do you think you could take Conor? Like if Conor came up and tried to get up on you, think you could take him?
That's a good question. So I'm actually a fan of Conor. I think he's a hell of a fighter.
He's a great fighter.
I'm also I was at one point about 100 pounds heavier than him. But I'm going to say yes from the standpoint of I have a philosophy. I do not lose. And if you come, I'm a one-upper. That's just what it is. I am a one-upper. So I don't fight fair. I'm not going to lose. And that is my philosophy. But I am a fan of Conor McGregor. But at some point, sheer size and mass overtakes.
Okay.
And, so yeah, I mean, again, fantastic. I'm sure it would hurt if you hit me. But
he's fast.
He is.
Fast, yeah.
But I always like to put my money on myself.
A guy like that would go. The guy like that would size you up real quick, and he would look at your joints, and he would find a weak joint, and he's like, "I'm going."
He'd probably try to leg kick, right?
Yeah.
I would check it for sure. I was fortunate enough to train with a bunch of MMA guys back in the day. Like Chuck Liddell very well. Alex Karalexis runs my foundation. We trained with him for almost 8+ years. But no, I'm a fan of Conor. I like the energy he brings, the way he fights as far as that standpoint goes. It's unfortunate the leg injury because I think he was good for the sport. But at the end of the day, as I'm sure any grown man would say, I'm just not not letting someone get over on me. Francis Ngannou, he probably has a chance.
Love it. So, speaking of players that people that may have gotten one over on your team once upon a time, Tom Brady, now since retirement, how do you feel about that?
Hey, I mean, whatever you feel is right. I think people should play until they can't anymore. Or for me, it wasn't about the physical; it was about the mental. I wasn't willing to put the hours in the off season anymore to be at the level I needed to be, which I considered my level. So I think anybody who retires needs to sit back and go through that process of, okay, am I willing to prepare like I need to maintain the level of excellence that I'm accustomed to? B, can my body hold up? And C, am I mentally ready to give it up? Because so many guys in our business are forced out, and so they have to constantly battle those questions. Where I think a guy like Tom, and I was fortunate myself to be able to make the decision myself. I think those are the conversations he's having with him, within himself, and saying, okay, is my life fulfilled? Is my career fulfilled? Which obviously it should be. Have I accomplished what I can accomplish? And then also, again, do I have the physical and mental stamina to continue to compete at a level I need to be relevant and to sustain and be successful? And when you go through that process, then you can make a decision with a clear head. So the guy gave us 23 years of greatness. It was fun. It was fun as a fan of the sport to watch that. It was fun to compete against him. And so hopefully he enjoys the retirement life like the rest of us. He'll probably go into broadcasting because he seems like a kind of guy that doesn't like to sit still. But for me, I enjoy retirement life. So welcome to it, my friend.
Did you ever sack Tom Brady?
I did. Actually, my rookie year, got a Monday Night Football, very first play of the game.
Wow.
I got him a couple of times, I think. But yeah, it was that was the most memorable.
Did you slap him on the ass like you did Peyton Manning?
No, I should have. I should have given him the old. Yeah. I also wasn't dressed in a Speedo and USA swim cap with goggles with gold medals either.
So another quarterback you played against is kind of in this. He's almost following the footsteps of Brett Favre, and is he going to retire? Is he going to come back? He doesn't quite know, and that's Aaron Rodgers. And of course, you played against him.
Yeah, Aaron. Again, I've had I'm not really know Aaron that personally off the field. We get along just fine. We're cordial every time we see each other. But that has been something weird to watch, to be honest. Just kind of see the maturation, or no, what's the word I'm looking for? The evolution of Aaron Rodgers, I should say. Here's my honest take on that. I think if Green Bay wants to get better, right now Aaron's the bulk of their cap. You look at, we just talked about Tom Brady. Look what he always did to make sure he had players around him. When Aaron was successful there, they had great players around him.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no taking anything away from Aaron Rodgers as how great of a quarterback he is. But I think what that's proven, it doesn't matter how great one individual is in football. It's not like basketball. You can have one or two great players, you can win championships. If you don't have any players around you, you don't have a line to protect, you don't have the ability to create for others, everybody can focus on you. And I think that's what's happened there. They've paid him so much money. They don't have the cap space to get him any help. And or, whether it's his it's attitude, ego, or the fact that they're not willing to pay anybody else because they have to pay him, people have left and ran off. Jordy Nelson, we can go back from
right
when I was with Jordy Nelson, gone. Jennings, gone. Driver retires.
Charles Woodson.
Charles Woodson, right? And from the defensive side, you got, Matthews leaves. AJ Hawk leaves. Again, football is a business as well, but I don't think the Packers as a whole did a great job of keeping players around him, and whether that's, because all their cap was tied up with him. So I think that's where the ball. I think from a business side, you're seeing a flaw in the Packers business model, and Aaron's taken the hit. He's taken the personality hit for it, if you will. The other side of it is, listen, I'm not one to turn down money either. I get it. But at the same time, you want to win championships, you want to do this, you got to have people to deliver it to. So it'll be interesting to see. And, I don't think he can be mad because he saw it play out with Brett, and it's almost playing out identically the same. If he ends up with the Jets,
oh my God,
my mind's going to be blown. I'm going to be like, well, I guess he's going to Minnesota next year too.
Next it's like, is he going to send a dick pic?
Well, I don't know. When he's all what's the hallucinogenic he's taking these days?
Whatever thing he's on at the time.
My philosophy with that's just effing weird. I'm sorry, Aaron. I'm sure you'll see this. That's weird, bro. All respect for anybody who wants to take their personal journey the way they take it. But if I gotta vomit on myself and freak the F out and hallucinate to find myself,
It ain't right.
I'm already gone. Right? I'm already gone.
Oh, so you are. I want you to first of all think about what else you would like to taste here. We're surrounded by bottles, and the camera frame. It'll look like it's nice, neat, and organized, and everything's nicely lit. But in reality, this is clusterfuck in here.
Yeah, but it's beautiful. It's like disorganized chaos meets harmony. That's what this is.
That's what it is with a lot of booze.
Yes. You know what? I am in your world.
Okay.
And as a man who again likes to learn and knowledge.
Well, tell me what do you
I think I want
in the mood for? Like what kind of what flavor?
Anything.
Are you wanting a pecan husk?
You gotta surprise me. Which, by the way, anybody out there who ever compares any bourbon to pecan husk, you're full of crap. Unless you've ever had pecan husk in your mouth.
I will say I say pecan shell.
There you go.
Pecan shell.
Well, see, I would expect you to have tried something.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a pecan tree. I grew up behind our house had pecan trees.
Yeah.
All on it, and like we'd climb them, and those trees are so beautiful and they're so sturdy. And we would take the pecans and we would put them in our slingshots and hit each other.
Oh, nice.
So, I mean, it was always a great time. But the shell is really bitter.
Okay.
And so I'll explain bitterness as a pecan shell, walnut shell, because those shells that hold those tree nuts are very, very bitter. And it's similar to like what wood would taste like. And so it's like the closest comparison that I can give someone outside of saying licking a tree stump or a piece of lumber or something. It's a very bitter, astringent.
Go down to 84 lumber, lick some pine, and you'll be good to go. You'll understand.
84 lumber, I know that spot.
Well, here's this. So I want you to surprise me with something off-brand, right? Because I think so many times we fall into the trap of wanting to drink a brand we've heard of or seen that, for example, I got to be honest, I've never actually had Pappy, but I don't.
You've never had Pappy?
Never had Pappy.
You own restaurants.
I know, but I just never.
Do you want to try it?
We can, but my point of it is that's what everybody, like anybody who starts out, they're like, oh, you got to have Pappy, right? So I'm the type of guy that I like to know. I want, I always tell my wife, for example, when we first got married, buying a bag, I was just like, you can have any bag you want. Like, I'll get you any bag except a Louis Vuitton, because every NFL wife has a Louis Vuitton. Or it was like when I remember I used to be into watches, right? I was like, at the time, I got one given to me later, but everybody bought a Breitling. I was like, I will wear anything but a Breitling. Nothing against them. I just like to have nice stuff that people don't know about. Like, like I might be wearing, $1,000 pair of cowboy boots. You just might not know that. I'm not. I'm not actually. But so that's my point. So I like in like the bourbon world and that kind of stuff. I started kind of going down little rabbit holes and always, because I always knew Pappy would be there and I'll eventually get to it at some point. But I've always started just trying things. That
you want something outside of the norm.
Yeah, outside of the norm that throws comp to that.
Okay.
Yes. See, I'm testing your knowledge now.
Well, it's a matter of like getting you something that so many things that are outside of like the normal parameters taste like shit.
Oh, yeah, it's got to taste good though.
And so like I got to get you something. How do you feel about like, because most of our conversations end up with you talking about like about a bourbon that has some age on it. You typically like things with about 8 years on it at the least.
I do. You
don't like the taste of youth. In other words,
not necessarily, because like we talked earlier, I thought that the Leaper's Fork brand, I thought that was, I believe it's a 4-year. I'm not 100% sure on that. I was like, this. You could tell it had potential, right? Like I was just like, oh, this has actually got some flavor for young. So my problem with a lot of the young stuff is just it feels watered down to me, It just hasn't got there. But at the same time, I don't know what Elijah Craig's.
And you like rye, right?
I do like rye. I've never really crossed into the Scotch stuff because I'm not big on the peat, like the peatiness.
Yeah, not all Scotches have peat in it.
So there's a few I do like, but like, if I had to say there's an everyday, just fantastic bourbon, I mean, you take an Elijah Craig all day long. So I don't even know what age that is. So it's something in that range or that category. All
right, so I'm going to take you down. We're gonna talk about a product here it's a Leopold Brothers. They're out of Colorado.
Okay.
This is a 3-chambered still, which is an It's a kind of an extinct still.
Okay.
You know, like when you go to MGP, they have a big giant column, right?
Correct.
It's big up there. The 3-chamber still is less efficient than that.
Okay.
And this is a bottled and bond product. It's 5 years old. It is a rye whiskey, so we're not having bourbon here.
Yep.
We're having rye, and you're going to be tasting what'll be really.
Thank you, sir.
You're going to really taste the grain in that. You're going to taste a lot of oils in it. But this still is a very it extracts a lot more out of it, but they don't make a lot of money off of it because it's not as efficient. They literally brought this style of a still back.
Hey, for 5 years, you can already just smell I mean, you can just the rye on that is fantastic.
Yeah, you can smell the oilness of it.
I like the simplicity of it too, right? I think so many times people they try to disguise everything with their packaging and labeling. What are your thoughts on the bottle and bond?
Well, it's a historic.
Theories? I know.
It's historic. It's important. It's hard to create because of the amount of restrictions on it. So, from anyone's perspective of making whiskey, I think it's a money loser. You know, because you're so restricted. But from a consumer, it gives me a guarantee of what it is. Yeah. And there's so many shenanigans, so much bullshit surrounding whiskey that I like guarantees.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
absolutely. That is actually fantastic for a 5-year-old.
It's great, right?
Fantastic.
So one of the things that
is it the sorry to interrupt is it the oil of it that it almost gives it a thicker
absolutely
kind of
like
feel
the way this still makes whiskey is that it extracts it cooks, it goes slower, so it's able to extract more oil, more lipids, and that carries through with the aging process. Extracts also all the vanillin and wood sugars from the barrel, and
that is fantastic. See, right then, I just learned something.
Yeah, it's a completely, and that I was looking for something that would be off profile, out of the world, but also good.
And not to say, I mean, there's reasons that, like, you know, Pappy has the name it has, obviously, right? Because it's pretty dang good.
Well,
I from what I hear,
once upon a time, this past year's I thought this past year's was awful.
Okay. Well, I mean, anything that gets commercialized, right, usually tends to go down.
No, well, they've typically been pretty good in the past decade. They just last year's batch was.
So is bourbon a lot like wine too, though? You know, does the crop yields? Does the crop year have anything to do with that, or because of the distilling process, do you get to kind of you can get more consistency through year to year?
You can get more consistency, but these warehouses will have various. They have various ebb and flows, and you know, certain barrels taste better than others, and a lot of it comes down to the blending of it. And I frankly, when it comes to blending 15, 20, 23-year-old whiskey, I mean, you're kind of as good as the measure of your parts. Yeah. And there's not. I'm also someone who's very sensitive to oak. I'm not a fan of oak, and so like I dismiss a lot of the a lot of characteristics that people like in some of the Pappies because they find it to be, they like an oak note, whereas like I like oak fine, but when oak is the dominant thing, all I can taste is like a tree, and then I get a little caramel underneath, which was the case with this year's 23 year. You know, that's not going to do it for me. Yeah. So
it's all each to own type deal, right?
Absolutely.
I think that's what's fun about spirits, right? It's everybody's got to be. We'll talk about something delicious. I got to just taste the new Stag that came out.
Oh yeah, that was number 6 on my top 100.
Goodness, And what is it, like
Oh,
136
the
proof?
BTAC stag or the stag junior?
No, the BTAC.
Oh yeah, that came in third of my. Yeah, that was
It was
amazing.
like 136 proof or something
Yeah.
like that, right?
Great
I got to taste
whiskey.
that about a week or so ago, and that was fantastic. There's an Eagle Rare. It's an Eagle Rare 10 that's a high proof. I believe it's a 10-year Eagle Rare. I was actually blown away with how smooth that was. But yeah, I think that's the cool part about it, right? It's finding that line, those lanes that you like.
Yeah.
Because like you said, not everybody likes rye. Not everybody likes,
Right.
I do get a good kick out of when people taste the bourbon like, oh yeah, you definitely get corn, and you're like, well, you should. It's 51. It's at least 51% corn. So I do like to mess with people, depending on who I'm tasting with. Is see if you can't get people down that fake rabbit hole of what notes they're actually seeing. I'm a big fan of going out and like Googling all the tasting notes that different people say on a brand before I get it, see if I can see it. Just because I know myself, I'll fall into that line too. We were in Napa one year, and we had friends that were in a winery out there, and so we're doing all this tasting, and I'm like, they're like, oh, you get the pepper? I'm like, oh, totally. Yeah, I totally get all this. So my wife was like, you are so full of crap, dude, right? So she's like, close your eyes. I was like, I can pick any one of these. So I closed my eyes. She's going to shuffle them. This one's this one, this one, this one. Completely wrong. I was like, oh, did you switch them? She goes, I didn't even switch them up. I was like, so full of crap. But that's the cool part about spirits, right? The whole world. It's subjective to what your personal palate is.
So when early in my career, my wife was with me. She used to get to travel with me before we had kids. We were in Cognac, and we were helping them design the perfect glass for Cognac, or choose the perfect glass for Cognac. And we came out of that. We were smelling our water. I mean, we had to smell like 5,000 different trials. And it was insane. But you get into the trade of wine or brandy. Bourbon is a lot less. It's a lot less that way. And I'm the guy. I usually I wear ascots, right? So like but I wear that almost ironically. And the whole thing is like bourbon is more approachable.
Yep.
Usually than wine and a lot of other spirits. But when you get in the room with some of these people who are professional tasters, some I would, who are colleagues. I mean, I'm a professional taster, so I fall down that world sometimes. But man, you get away from it when you're in the group, and it's just like what the fuck are we doing? It's like this is ridiculous. But at the same time, it's awesome.
Oh yeah, I think it's great because, like I said, I think I drink too much coffee to have an in-depth palate. But
oh no, coffee helps you.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Maybe that's
so
why.
you had said you don't really like scotch. Well, I'm gonna
blow my mind. Yeah, blow my mind here.
Behind you, on the lower shelf, right over your left shoulder, you should see you'll see a small little bottle. It says 80. It's in between the one that says Pappy. You're going to see...
Up or down?
Right where your hand is.
Okay.
So on the far right, you're going to see a box.
Yep.
All right. So that right there, in between that, right there, that one.
It's a cute little guy.
I'm going to grab us 2 glasses.
Okay.
That's 80-year-old scotch.
Oh, goodness.
We're going to find out.
Is that from like... what about the company? Wasn't it Lost Distilleries?
Oh, Lost Spirits.
Lost Spirits. Didn't they go out and they found like 80, 50, 100-year-old?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that. But
Okay.
It's similar. So, for those just listening to this and not seeing it on camera, you've seen my office before at some point. It's tiny. Well, Jared comes in and he's just shy from hitting the ceiling, and he's wearing this old school 1970s coat. I mean, what's that thing? Is that thing made of mink and
No, gosh, no. This is literally like sheep's wool, like the hide and everything. Yeah.
That's like 2 inches of sheep's wool.
Yeah, it's my wife had it when I was in Minnesota. I got it for a Christmas present. She had it. It's handmade from a lady up in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, and
Wow.
unfortunately, I don't get a chance to wear it. We had this ice storm last night.
Yeah.
So I got the chance to wear it today, and I figured, what better way to, fully.
I mean, you've been rocking it this whole time until this moment.
Yeah, I started to get a little hot. Yeah, it was starting to get a little hot. I didn't want to pass out on camera, so we'll bring it back. It works as a blanket as well, so we can kind of kind of double up on it.
All right, so here, this is an 80-year-old Glenlivet.
I feel like I'm not worthy for this. I feel like, hey. Well, now I better get into the Hall of Fame.
You're now in so
they better let me in because we're wasting the good stuff on me.
I would tell you that if you got the call right now and we found out you were in the Hall of Fame, there's a lot of stuff we could open in here.
Yeah.
This probably would not have been on the list.
Oh, really? Okay.
Only because I know you're not a Scotch guy.
Well, but, I mean, you might blow my mind here. But
I haven't had this either, and they sent this to me 2 years ago, I think, and I've been looking for an excuse to taste it.
Well, let's do it.
And you were like, I don't really like Scotch.
So I'll give you my Scotch story, right? So someone bought me, again, back before I even went down the rabbit hole of what was good and what wasn't. I went with the branding market. So I got a bottle of Blue Label, right? Johnny Walker Blue Label given to me. And someone poured me a shot of it or whatever. And I took it, and it was like the trampoline effect. I was just like, oh my gosh, that's the worst thing I've ever tasted in my life. Gave the bottle away. I was like, nope, never again, not doing it. Then, so I was like, I'm not a Scotch guy, obviously. Not going down that road. So now I'm in Minnesota. That was back when I was in Kansas City. I'm in Minnesota, and my neighbor for the holidays one day brings me over a bottle of Blue Label. And I literally was just like, thank you, but that stuff is terrible. And my wife was like, you're the rudest SOB ever. Like, why? Just say thank you. Just say thank you. Put it at the bar. You don't have to be honest with them. And that was that was really much, that turned me off from Scotch. I've had a Macallan here and there, which, I didn't hate, but I just never got back down that road. Now I know people that absolutely love it. I guess I don't truly understand it either. I know what makes a Scotch, but I don't understand why some are peaty, some are not, what the flavor profiles and the purposes of that are.
So, a couple things. Scotch is, what we know today as Scotch is single malt, but really the tradition of Scotch are blends.
Okay.
And the blending agent that would have peat would usually come from Islay, which now has represented by several distilleries in Lafroig and a couple others. Those peat bogs, they use that to essentially, smoke the barley.
Okay.
And so that's the kind of their process of malting.
Ah, okay.
So that's where that comes from.
And is that only in certain regions?
Well, the amount of peat used, yes, in the single malt side. There are some that are not peaty. There are some that are more so than others. And Glenlivet is a really nice kind of, neutral level one. And this one is 80 years old.
Yeah, it smells. I mean, what are you even getting out of a barrel of 80 year? You gonna get a couple spoonfuls?
Well, think about this. They're using used barrels.
True. So okay.
They're in a different climate. So you're not getting the same kind of
evaporation,
and they can rotate however they need.
Wow. All right. So that's my standard. 80-year Scotch. That's the standard now. That's my baseline. Well played, sir. Well played. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that 60-year? Oh, I only drink 80 plus. Oh, that is good. I don't even know how to describe the initial, it's just like freshness on your palate at first. I don't even know how to describe that. It actually progressively gets better, more flavor as you go back.
Yeah, I gotta have some time with it. But this is also I think this was if I recall, this was a $120,000 bottle.
Oh my goodness.
And this is the sample size I get. Most, you get full bottles or larger ones, but they sent me this. And I know they were probably you haven't reviewed that yet. So
Well, we're doing it now.
And I'm like, well,
congratulations, you get a first timer.
Well, that's how it is. All these people send me samples, and it's my job, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a sports reporter getting to go to all the games, and you see this place, I lose shit all the time, and I happen to see when I was setting up your chair, which, by the way, that took some work. I had to push a bunch of wires out of the way.
And I apologize for the squeakiness on camera. It just
I don't know if you could actually hear that with that mic. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, the chair needed some
that I'm
WD-40.
like rocking back and forth.
Yeah, it needed some WD-40, but it's all good.
Put a little
But when I was like putting your chair up, I was like, oh shit, that's where that 80-year-old went.
Oh my goodness, that is just. I don't know that I would misplace an 80-year-old sample of scotch.
Yeah.
How do you even describe? I don't even know how to describe. Like because I'm not good at describing notes. That's why I say I don't have a good palate. But like, I mean, I don't know. Like you get a little. I feel like I get a little sweetness, but then it turns into this like almost a savory.
This
flavor. I don't even know how to.
This has a lot of layers to it.
Yeah.
And it's almost too like, I would almost. This I feel like we should be like in a quiet room for at least a good 5-10 minutes and just kind of being one with it. But going down the path of smelling this and then tasting it, there are so many levels of different types of apricot flavors in it for me.
Okay, that make sense. Yeah,
there's so much going on.
I get like a light smoke on my nose. Am I making that up?
No.
Like when I first started smelling it, I was like, you smell like a campfire in the distance.
Yeah.
I was like, it just kind of brings me. It's something about this brings me outdoor, like an outdoor feeling. You know what I mean? I'm like
a little campfire note.
I was not. I guess for me, I don't think I had an expectation. And so to be like really, really blown away
took you to another level.
Yeah, to really be blown away with and how it starts so soft and then just kind of like it gets more intense as you swallow.
There's a black licorice note in this as well. But this is got a lot of it's very complex. If I'm to break it down, it's got some brininess to it. It's got a lot of layers of fruit. I would start with the apricot, like dried apricot jelly. There's a lot of apricot in this for me. There's some fig. There's some like. Did you ever chew on when you were out on the ranch? Did you ever chew on alfalfa?
Oh yeah,
you get a little kind of alfalfa, kind of like
I definitely. When you say that makes sense to me.
It's got like this quality to it that.
Yeah, like a fresh hay. Like maybe that's what I mean by like it just feels outdoors. It's like it's not that piney. It's like a fresh, almost like like a. For me, like you've never been on the range, there's something about when it feels just freshly cut of hay that you can just
exactly.
You just know,
that smell. And by the way, that's a workout. Hauling hay. Holy shit! I remember having to haul hay. 5 and 6 bells high.
We used to get them off the squeeze when we first moved from Northern California, Eureka, California, down to Central California, like San Jose, San Martin. We lived in a place where my dad's friend and we were training out of, he had a hay company. And so he'd get the big squeezes, and that's how we just used to buck hay onto the back, on and off semis and filling up barns. And I'd come home from the summer, that's half the time, loading the hay shed, unloading the hay shed. Was
getting those hands strong.
Oh, yeah. I actually have a scar in my hand from a hay hook I put into my head. Had a loose handle. It just never flicks it. And I went to grab a bale, and I was like first grade. Just missed it and it went straight into my head. Bleeding all over the place.
Did you stuck? Like how?
Yeah, probably a good 1/8 of an inch. into my dome. So enough that I didn't, we toughed it out at those ages, but enough to lay down and
Rub
to be
dirt in
monitored.
it, right?
To be monitored, but yeah, I just have a scar on my head from a hay hook I put into it.
And I bet you this changes too if we let it open up a little bit, give it a little bit more time.
Yeah. Wow.
But so that's did that win you over for scotch?
I'm in. I am in. Any of my buddies who try to be all like, oh, I got this, 10-year Macallan or whatever, I'm just gonna be like, sir, what can I get you? Do you have an 80-year Glenlivet, please?
Do you have any 80-year Glenlivet? That's all I have.
That's all I ask. That's my standard. So, see, this is one of those occasions you don't know until you know. And so now, I didn't drink scotch before because I wasn't really, not my thing. Now I'm ruined because if that's not what I'm
well,
getting.
Hold on now.
Hold
on now. We might find something else here.
It's like nobody wants a skirt steak when you can have a fillet.
Right. Oh, that's the truth.
But if you grew up on skirt steak, you think steak's bomb.
I mean, if you got a good chimichurri.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
we make our carne asada with it, but still.
All right, so now the challenge is to find another.
Well, I'm glad you tasted mine first, by the way, too.
But it's different,
totally
it's different. Like
totally
I would
different.
never compare that 80-year scotch to a bourbon unless it was like in a finals and I had to choose
Whiskey
like
of the year,
best whiskey, which happens, right? Let's see.
It is funny to smell the first two we tried, right? The mine and then the what is this?
The Leopold Brothers.
Leopold Brothers. Like against, you just smell them against each other. You obviously because the rye, is high, but this was pure rye. You get some of the similar notes, and you can smell how the wheat softens this one out, right?
That is a true statement. The wheat does soften up whiskey, especially at that age.
I think that's what I like the most about even wines and spirits, and it's like neutral spirits like vodkas and stuff like that. You kind of just
right.
It is what it is. I mean, you really, even though the mash bills might be similar, but the way you blend and age things really can change the profiles
1,000%
of everything. And I think that's the fun scientific nerd part of it. I really like.
And one of the big things too is like how long it's in a batch together when it's blended, because it'll change while it's kind of like getting stuck together. Like when you first blend something and taste it, by the time you guys bottle it, it'll be totally different.
Yeah.
Because like it's not bonded all the way.
Yeah, that's the fun experience of it, I think.
It's crazy, but it'll change it. You want to taste one more?
Yeah.
You want to stay in whiskey? You want to go into rum?
Ooh, I've never made that journey to rum.
Okay.
I've never gone. So that's probably one of the spirits I've just never ventured down.
Well, I'll get you
after college.
on.
After college and drinking Captain and Diets for so long.
So we can talk a little bit about rum and how it is completely bastardized by Captain Morgan and Bacardi
and Jerry's.
Well, Jerry Sailors, yeah. So those rums are made in countries or territories that are subsidized by us.
Okay. Now, are rums like tequila where they have to be made in a?
No,
they can be made in the United States.
I would say it's complete opposite. Like rum is defined differently throughout the world.
Okay.
And it's frustrating.
What is your take to go on different topics here? Is of the like the gin? Like you kind of hear about the gin movement coming back, but then I feel like gin is just kind of a piney vodka.
In some cases,
process in making that.
In some cases, it is.
Okay.
But in others, it's actually, really good. There's a lot of there's a lot of craft that goes into it. You distill it in MGP. They have a really good gin still with a gin basket and everything.
Yeah, I didn't know if the depths with those, like, how do you tell a good gin from a bad gin versus one gives you a hangover and one doesn't?
The best note that I can give you is a smell of BO.
Oh, okay.
Like you can't, like if you can smell like if you can smell an undercurrent of like BO or funk, I mean, brother, you are probably in the cesspool of the most disgusting place in the known human environment, and that's the NFL locker room. I mean, actual bacterias were growing in there that they didn't even have an answer to. And I remember when that was going on, like, they were like, yeah, we don't exactly know why, but so-and-so might lose his leg this week.
MRSA will go through quick, bro. I mean, people are nasty.
Yeah, I mean, but you all are especially nasty.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. So you're saying BO. If you smell like BO, avoid it.
If you smell BO, like some people would define it as a funk kind of under, but in gin, if you smell BO, don't drink it. Like that's hangover.
So it's like meat. The nose knows, right?
Yes.
They say the nose knows.
Yes.
If it smells funky, put
and
it
also
down.
like meat, it can be slimy. So it really knows then.
The nose knows. Okay, that's good to know. But now, take me down this rum journey. I'm excited.
Okay, so we got a couple really great rums right above you there. The Chairman's Reserve. That 2000 right there at the very top.
Right here, very top. Okay,
very top, right there in the middle.
Oh, right here, I got it. Yep.
Yeah. That's a great rum.
Okay. Now, how is rum aged, and how is rum? Are they made like steel carboys, or is it barrels?
Let's start from the beginning of rum. Rum comes from molasses or sugarcane, fresh squeezed sugarcane juice, depending on the region.
So is that why it's more of a tropical drink?
Yeah, it's more. It's made in the Caribbean. It's historically made in the Caribbean, also in the Northeast. Our country was actually originally a rum-centric country.
Okay.
But when we became our own entity, we wanted to get away from rum because all the molasses, which is a byproduct of making sugar, was coming from the West Indies, and the French and the English owned the West Indies. And so there was this effort to get away from doing anything that would encourage our enemies. And so we started moving to whiskey, but we were originally a rum country.
Oh, good to know.
And rum is the premium drink of the 1700s. The English lose control of us and other parts of the world, and it begins to lose, its luster. And, the way for whiskey is paved in the distilled spirits world. But rum is really some of the greatest spirit in the world is rum. So that's one of them. I'm going to go I'm going to look for another bottle. I think it's actually behind the door.
Got here.
Look for a bottle that says Foursquare. There we go. Right there at the top.
Very top.
Top right. It says Foursquare. It's in a really bad looking computer jet label. Yeah.
Right. Oh, Old Overholt. That was the name of my first boat I bought.
Really?
Yep. Doc Holliday's favorite whiskey. I actually have a bottle of Old Overholt. I literally don't know how old it is. I've been told it could be 20 plus, 30, 40 years old. That we were clearing out an old bar when we were opening up our restaurant. We were going through and getting kitchen equipment out. Mm-hmm. And we literally found this old, dusty, yellowed out labeled bottle of Old Overholt. And I still have it at the house, although...
Well, send me photos. I'll date it for you.
Yeah, I will. And it might not... I appreciate it. I have to hide, I have certain friends that come over that don't know anything about booze, and they just, they'll grab the first thing they see and mix it with something.
Right.
That one got parsing fatality to that one. To
yeah,
some of those people.
as
I had
it
to hide
should.
that one.
I'm going to grab 2 other glasses.
I had to hide that one. I just like the way it looks. I don't even drink it. They could make an air freshener out of that 80-year-old, and I'd buy it.
I mean, it's not something you hear every day.
If I said ash,
yeah,
in the best way possible, would that make sense?
Yeah, well, I mean, out here in Kentucky, we'd be thinking coal ash.
No, like that's just almost like wow. My mind
So
is
you're
getting blown
looking
today.
at two authentic real rums. And I say that
Foursquare here.
because there's a lot of brands that dump sugar into the before they bottle. But real rum is next level shit.
Which one are you going with first?
I'm starting with the Chairman's Reserve.
Chairman's Reserve. Okay.
Yeah. You smell that fresh molasses there. Kind of think of like opening up a jar of sorghum or molasses that you would get from a store. They don't do a lot of molasses out here in the States, but they do in other parts of the world. It's kind of a common sweetener.
We used to have molasses licks for the cattle.
Yeah. You think about all those old the sweet feeds and stuff.
Yep.
That was all kind of binded by molasses. I don't get to really talk to many people that grew up around that stuff.
Oh yeah.
So it's fun.
Yeah, versus oats versus your corn.
Yeah.
Your corn grain feeds.
That's nice. So what you're used to is Captain Morgan is basically sugared up.
Yeah.
It's more it's the spirit.
This is fantastic.
Right?
Because that's always my problem with rum. It's overly sweet, right?
Yeah.
And you're just kind of like, it's just too much for me. I just never got into, because I've never been a big rum and coke guy. I've never been a big, overly big. I mean, who doesn't like a Mai Tai, right? But
Right.
this is, you would drink this neat, like just, gosh, my liquor cabinet's going to have to get bigger.
I can send you home with some stuff too.
Oh my goodness.
I'll send you home with some really good rum.
That is fantastic.
Rum gets misunderstood because, and I was kind of getting at this earlier, is there's all these subsidies that go into to making rum in St. Croix and Puerto Rico, and that's from our government, our taxpayers.
Okay.
But we also give them, we give the St. Croix billions of dollars to operate. So Captain Morgan, they actually don't have any production costs, or whatever production costs they have are minimal because our government is paying for it, because that's their way of like keeping that stability there, which, more power to them. But that being said, Captain Morgan has zero cost. And they have all this marketing money. And so, like, if you are Chairman's Reserve, St. Lucian Distillers, you cannot compete against that.
Yeah.
Because Captain Morgan's going into liquor stores via their distributors and saying, like, hey, we would like to have that front-facing aisle.
Yeah.
And the liquor store's like, well, that's a fine $100,000 check there. I'm like, oh, well, no problem. And they scoot that check on over there, and boom, Captain Morgan right there.
Well, when's the last time you heard anybody drinking Captain Morgan neat?
I don't think I've ever heard that.
That's how I measure my stuff, right? So it's funny you say that, because it's literally almost similar market type share as, I joke about it. I always tell people, I'm like, the bourbon world is, or even spirits in general, right? You have people that are going to go, they just want to shoot it, right? You have people that want to, something decent to mix, shooter mix, and then, people that want to put it on the rocks and have something decent to drink. Mm-hmm. Or then, people that are going to sit and really, take it neat and dissect it. And there's these three little layers almost of drinkers. And I'm assuming it's aged in an oak barrel.
They're actually mostly aged in used bourbon barrels.
That's what I was going to say there has to be a bourbon connection, because when I'm tasting it, I'm like, I'm like, this has a very similar feel to some of those sweeter wheated bourbons.
Yeah, they'll use used bourbon barrels. In fact, Foursquare, where we're going to next, they'll put on their label what they used, and so this is entirely used bourbon. But what Foursquare will do, and this is the Foursquare Nobiliary, and for those who want to get geeky with it, rum producers will also make distillate of pot, like a pot still distillate and a column still distillate, and they'll blend those together and age them, or age them separately and blend them together later.
What's the standard age for a rum?
Oh, standard for sipping rum, 4 or 6 years.
Okay.
This one is 14 years, what we're about to sip. And the other one came from 2009, and I got that in 2021. So that would be 12 years.
Yep.
Yeah. So these are elites, so these would be Pro Bowlers,
Yeah.
Which, by the way,
So
how do you feel about the Pro Bowl going to a flag football game?
Gosh. It's the evolution of the NFL. Can't hit anybody anymore. Can't, you know what I mean? There's just no. The Pro Bowl started changing, I think, probably. I noticed around like maybe my third or fourth one, where I remember where we were at. We were in Hawaii somewhere one year. I think it was my third one, and it literally was the sixth alternate was on board. I remember me and Kyle Vandenbosch one year were laughing because I think he was like the first or second alternate. He had 3 sacks one year and made the Pro Bowl. He was like, I don't know how I got here. I think, I don't know. I just think it's look where the league is. Everything people are specialized now, right? You have pass rushers. You have people that's supposed to this. Those 4-down players don't really exist anymore. They're very, very rare, and just the way the league is transitioning to these stupid roughing the passer calls, which is absolutely nonsense, right? Everything is ticky-tacky these days. And so it doesn't surprise me. I mean, the Pro Bowl's been a joke, again, probably the last 10 years, right? I remember my first one I went to, towards the end of the year, guys, retired to that fourth quarter, we got after it because we were looking to pay for all of our idiot friends that were drinking on our tabs, all weekend, and our families. We needed that extra $15,000 in the check. But yeah, so it doesn't surprise me it's going to flag football. But the problem with it is now too is ever since they moved it to before the Super Bowl, when it was after the Super Bowl, it still made it a prestigious thing, right?
Right.
So when it went to before, you're like, well, all these players now don't get an opportunity. You're basically telling them that it's not important, right?
Right.
So now you have all these guaranteed alternates that get to get in. I can remember back then it was rare when an alternate got in, right? Because someone had to, was hurt or didn't go. I remember I postponed shoulder surgery to go to the Pro Bowl, right? Because it was an honor to get voted in by your peers and fans and stuff. So I just think when they made that model shift and all these alternates are getting in, now everybody elects that, they don't want to go out. You still get the recognition. You don't have to do anything about it. And now it's a skills competition and flag football. And it's just like, hopefully that's not a foreshadowing of where the league's going, right? Next thing you know, you're going to have to be able to just touch the quarterback.
I mean, it's kind of, my joke around my family is it's like roughing the cuticle. Yeah. Everybody is, subject to a flag for breathing on a quarterback wrong. And the other thing is like the quarterbacks are flopping.
Oh, yeah.
They're flopping. Like Patrick Mahomes did that against Cincinnati. Like he's like right on the white line, right? When he gets pushed out and they get that, I think Osai was the guy that pushed him out. And like he wells up, throws the ball over, and it's like he's acting. It's like he's LeBron James.
You're starting to get into the flop rule in the NBA, yeah, and even like and that's the thing is like why the quarterbacks have a helmet on. If you're going to put your hand up block or you're going to reach for him and you touch his helmet or face mask, like I think what the league needs to go to is intent, right? Was it a malicious intent? If it's not a malicious intent, then you really need to look at that and say, okay, it's also like illegal contact away from the play. Like when they call illegal contact on a DB when the ball's thrown to the complete other side of the thing, like that had no bearing on the play, had no bearing on anything, right? Unless he grabs him and throws him down. I mean, come on. So I think they need to start looking at intent and they need to start looking at how it impacted the play, and make judgment calls based on that because I mean games are won and lost by that. I mean that one, I'll give them that because that kid shouldn't have been anywhere near the quarterback going out of bounds. Mm-hmm. But, they blatantly missed the block in the back on the punt return that set that whole thing up, right? So that's kind of where you got to say, when that kind of stuff happens, you allow conspiracy theorists to jump in and say,
they're rampant right now.
Yeah, things are rigged and, they didn't want Cincinnati to be there in the first place. So I just think they really need to look at intent. And obviously it's human, but it's just funny how certain things will get called in from New York, right? It's for a penalty and certain things won't. So yeah, I think they need to do a better job with some consistency. But I've always been a fan of intent. If there's intent to hurt, if there's an intent, if something's unintentional and it doesn't really affect the player, a defensive line's brushing up against the quarterback's face, or why does he have a helmet on then? Now you grab his face mask, you throw him to the ground, yeah, probably a penalty. But I'm glad I don't play anymore this time of year because I'd probably have 15 sacks and get credit for 2 of them because they don't be penalties.
Now you were a Chief, you were a Viking, you were a Panther.
Yeah.
When you go into the Hall, because it's going to happen, I believe it's going to happen this year. When you go in the Hall of Fame, what team are you going to represent?
It'll be the Vikings. That's where I would go in as either Chief and Vikings, but the Vikings is where I obviously spent the bulk of my career, and it's the place where I really, not just as a player, because obviously I was playing great in Kansas City, but as a human being, as a man, I really matured. I really feel like my life happened in Minnesota. I took a lot of the life lessons I learned from Kansas City, and I didn't meet my wife in Minnesota, obviously, but I got married out there. I had my first child. My wife was pregnant with our second child when we left, and we have so many great friends, and the organization believed in me. I never had any plans on leaving Kansas City, but after getting in trouble out there, they didn't show the faith in me that Minnesota truly believed. When we sat and talked to them, I'm like, listen, I was immature, this, that, and the other. Let me show you how I'm different. And they believed in me, and that was something I was looking for. I'm a meat stick, right? So it's like, I've never played just for the paycheck. I want to play for a purpose. When I got drafted by Kansas City and Coach Ramil was there, people always ask, how is it to play for Coach Ramil? I was like, it's the weirdest thing. Like this was the only man I ever met that could get other grown men to run through a brick wall time and time and time and time again, because you knew he'd take care of you, right? You felt like you were playing for something greater. Herm was great at that. Brad Childers. All my coaches have been really great at that. And that's so Minnesota for me, that's where I'll go in as. That's why I retired a Viking, because I just feel like that in my career, in my family, obviously they gave me my contract that, at the time was the highest in NFL history for a defensive player. But they put so much faith and trust in me. And all the way to the end, our relationship stayed amazing. Rick and I had open dialogue all the way to the end about me going to free agency. So I have a lot of respect for that organization, a lot of respect for that city, and I just feel like that's where I kind of helped me become who I am today.
What happened to Brad Childers? Like, I felt like I thought he had like an incredible. I thought he was a great coach there.
Brad was fantastic,
but he didn't get in. He never got another shot.
Brad was fantastic. Obviously, Brad's problem was that, to be honest, clash of egos, right? I love Brad to death. Still talk to him today. Him and Brad had a clash of egos, and come 2010, it's all everything. I always tell people, when you're winning, a lot of stuff gets swept under the rug, right? Brad had a hard time sitting back and letting Brett take credit for all the wins, and Brett didn't want to listen to a word Brett Childers had to say. So they kind of clashed. But you go into 2010, and here we are. Again, Brad he got a bad rap because he still had a fantastic record. You look at the turnaround he did with the organization, brought us to back-to-back championships, take us to an NFC title, and then injury plagued us in 2010. Right, Brett gets hurt. Then there's the scandal. Defensively, we were gutted. We were down to like our 4th-string cornerbacks, right? And so they make the trade for Randy. That doesn't work out. So I just think there was one of those domino effects where things were. I think the ownership saw things unraveling, and enough people had the right ear that they just knew they had to make a split. And let's be honest. Brett retires at we kind of lost them all, right? Brett retired, Brad goes on his way. But no, Brad was a fantastic coach.
But he never became a head coach again, right?
He didn't. No, he went to Kansas City, right? He was office coordinator consulting there. He did some consulting with the Bears. I don't think he ever wanted to. he kind of came out. He was doing some stuff with what was the name of that? I don't even remember the name of the league now. One of those startup spring leagues, right? And,
there's been several.
Yeah, and so I think but yeah, Brad. I think Brad was ready to after that stint just to be done. I mean, it takes a lot. It's like the type of coach he is. He's very detail oriented. Yeah. Brad's a very smart man. I genuinely loved our conversations with him. I think I give what Brad doesn't get enough credit for is he knew his role. So a lot of head coaches, they become head coaches and they forget what got them there. Right. So if you're a defensive guy, all of a sudden you want to learn offense and you want to fill that void that you're missing. You kind of forget about the defensive side. Or if you're an offensive guy, sometimes you spend too much time on the defense because, you want to make sure everybody knows that you're well versed, right? Brad took care of the offense, right? And he set a good workplace for us to be successful, and he let Coach Frazier lead, right? He let Coach Frazier on the defensive side do our thing. And so it's very rare for a head coach to allow, the people under them to work, right? Obviously he was more hands-on with the offense, and I really appreciated him about that. And then to have open input, open dialogue with the players. And I've always reminded Herm used to always say, like, listen, I'm not going to treat everybody the same, but I'll treat everybody fairly. And that's kind of how Brad was. There was a handful of players that he trusted, that we had his ear. And when we spoke, we could get things done. And Brad also knew when you needed to chill, right? He knew when we needed to ramp up and we needed to chill. He knew when he needed to back off and let the players take lead. So yeah, I love Brad. Like I said, have a great relationship to this day. And but yeah, he's one of those underrated coaches in Minnesota, coaching folklore that doesn't get the credit that he probably deserves, especially for riding the ship. I mean, they had some rough years before him.
Oh yeah.
And then we come in and look at the draft. I mean, Rick obviously a big part of that, but I mean, you get Hutch over there. You get to bolster the offensive line. They get McKinney. They get Adrian. T-Jack and Gus were doing good. They were enough to we were winning division championships with them, right? And then they get Brett over there, and we get the championship. But I mean, you look at some of the guys. Sidney Rice that had some great years. Percy Harvin, for all the ups and downs he had. I mean, I had never had a problem with him, but what a talent. So we had some talented individuals come through there, and Brad did a good job of getting those personalities together to win.
Okay. Well, that was when I became a fan. That's when I became a Vikings fan. I always thought Childers never got a fair shake or another opportunity.
Everybody remembers the drama, right? No one remembers the good time. You're like, we had back-to-back division titles. The NFC Championship loss sucked, but he constantly built that team up from nothing, and we had a good run. I would argue if he stayed, Coach Frazier came in, and again we got decimated with injuries, and we ended up making the playoffs in 12. But yeah, it was a different feel. Brad was a great head coach.
And the infamous Bounty Gate was the NFC Championship game, and now Sean Payton is with the Denver Broncos with the no poop Russell Wilson.
Yeah, and my guy George Payton. So my one of my favorite people in the league. Well, he was an assistant kind of GM with us, but George Payton was with the Vikings all those years with Brad and Rick and all those guys. So he's the GM down there. So I'm actually gonna have dinner with him, I think, on Saturday. So nice. It'll be interesting to see how that turns around. I think Sean's a great coach. It'll be interesting to see, what he does with Russell and if he can right that ship, because that was a nightmare.
Yeah, it was a disaster. I don't think anybody who likes football enjoyed watching the Broncos.
No. Oh, good.
So what do you feel about the rum?
Oh, fantastic. I think, again.
What was your favorite?
My I want to say the chairman.
Yeah.
This one, I think the
Foursquare.
The Foursquare is a little spicier.
These both
they have such a great finish.
They feel so good.
They
taste so good.
So there's something on the nose on the chairman that I can't place, but it's so pleasant. It's almost like an aerosol, almost like Aquanet, like nostalgia. And I know it sounds like a terrible way to describe it.
From the 1990s.
Yeah, But yeah, I'm like the way that and I know it's the alcohol. The way the alcohol kind of hits your nose palate, it just kind of I don't know. It's something. Like, I don't even say floral because I don't even know if that's the right way to describe it. It's soft. It's pleasant. Like I really. They're both fantastic. Like I said, it's not what my version of rum is, right? And you could sip this. This is like a.
So this is what
That is delicious.
this is how rum is meant to taste and how to be.
Well, I'm telling you, my
versus just a Coke.
rum collection's gonna get.
I'll send you home with a couple.
I'm actually gonna have a rum collection now.
Yeah, I love it. Well, heck, it's been. I don't even know when we started, but we're 6 drinks in, including an 80-year scotch, which thank God I found that because it may have just been sitting there for another.
I gotta say
3-4
again,
years.
standard setter.
Yeah, got a little left if you wanna.
Or palate ruiner.
You wanna see how it tastes now? You still have some left?
I have this glass left.
Here, kill it. See if it changed.
Oh, I don't even know if I'm alive. If you should be allowed to do this after drinking anything. I feel like I need to go scrub my tongue.
They have someone for that, you know.
I figured you did. Can we get the tongue scrubber in here, please?
Oh. You know, Snoop Dogg has someone roll his joints. So
that's when you know you've made it, right?
Yeah.
Like, what if you had someone here that only poured you, your perfect little 1/4 ounce draw?
Yeah.
Like,
I got someone do my blind tastings, pour my blinds, but
that's nice.
I'm not there yet. Like, I'm still pouring my own stuff.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this?
You're keeping it authentic.
Yeah.
Bourbon wouldn't allow that, right? You got to stay authentic.
Yeah, it's bad enough.
You're pushing it with the ascot.
Oh shit! All right, man.
Oh my gosh.
The change.
I don't know how you change greatness.
Yeah.
The best way to describe it, it's like there's just no, I don't even know what the proof of it is, but it's just like pure silk coming.
I think it's 80, 89.
But there's not a hint of, it's like full flavor. You know what I mean? There's no hint of, it just rolls on the palate, like almost soaks in, if that makes sense. That is fantastic.
Man.
I'll tell you what it does. They're consistent because it brought me right back to the place when I first tried it. So yeah, it's not like oh, you try, you're like, oh yeah, that's good. I remember having that. No, it's equally as impressive.
And now it's gone.
And
well, I'm glad that I had it to crack open with you, man.
I appreciate it. I feel lucky to be considered worthy enough for that.
Oh, of course you are. Come on now. That's a pre-celebration to your Hall of Fame acceptance.
Well, now we have to. Now, goodness, what are we going to do when I actually get in there?
Oh, I've got a special. I got something special, more special than that.
Okay, all right. Well,
yeah, I got something real. All honesty, I was like really, really anticipating when you came that you'd already know, and I have something in mind.
All right, well, let's hold it for when I do get in officially. When and if, and
no, there's no if.
When I get in officially, hopefully it's next week down at the Super Bowl, and we'll.
Yeah, that's the other thing is like you're going to come to my big game party because I can't mention that other thing, the other event going on there.
Yeah.
In relation to a for-profit with a little charities, angle to it. But you're going to be there if the curling thing doesn't happen. So tell everyone.
Well, I'm in curling. Yeah, so curling. I'm actually heading out to Denver.
So, are you a professional curler?
I am a professional curler. It doesn't take much to be a professional curler, but yes, I'm a professional curler. So our team qualified for nationals. So we have nationals starting Saturday in the Denver Coliseum. I'll be there through. It goes through the finals on next Saturday, but if I make the Hall of Fame this year, I'll be there till Tuesday. then off to Arizona on Wednesday for all the hubbub of that, and then I'm done curling for the year until we'll probably kick back up next September.
So what's the talk us through?
So
how
I play
to
lead.
train.
So I play lead, which means I throw the first 2 stones. Right, everybody throws 2 stones. Your first, second, third people we rotate sweeping. So you really train for it by being on the ice, right? You know, it's just throwing rocks. It's kind of like golf, right? It's just keeping your swing mechanics, keeping your slide mechanics, your release mechanics. Obviously, learning the form of how to sweep, most effective way to sweep, and all that stuff, and then keeping your cardio up a little bit for sweeping and whatever muscle tone that involves. But but yeah, so it's been a fun deal. It's totally outside my realm. Like where in football you get to use aggression, as a tool, as fuel. Where there, it really your adrenaline works against you. You really have to be able to make finesse shots and be in control of your heart rate and stuff like that. You might sweep one end to end and then have to come back and throw a draw weight to the button. So
so this really is the anti-athlete sport.
Pretty much, yeah. Most people on there are very, very smart.
Yeah.
It's like chess on ice, right? So you just have to be athletic enough to put those rocks, those chess pieces in the right space on ice by throwing them 140 feet down there.
All right, who do you like in the Super Bowl, and who has the best defensive line?
Oh, best defensive line. Well, goodness, I think overall has to go to Philly. I think Chris Jones is a stud.
He is amazing.
Yeah, I think
Kansas
he's a stud.
City, of course.
Yep. Philly looks good. Like Philly's beating everybody like handedly. You know what I mean? They beat who they're supposed to beat, and they beat them handedly. But you just look at the weapons that and Mahomes and them have being in this situation before. I think that the confidence they have.
Yeah.
But right now the way Philly's playing, that is going to be a tough team to beat. It really is. I think they have the athletes on the defensive side to take Kelsey away for the most part, and handle that run game and Mahomes up front with their front seven. And then they got some players on offense that can just, take time. So I think they have the better offensive line, to be honest with you. I think Philly has probably the better offensive line. And so if I had to choose right now, I just on paper, I'd say Philly. But again, anytime you count Mahomes out, I mean, how many times the guy come back from 10 down, 15 down, 14 down to come win it, right? And look what he did with the high ankle sprain to gut that one out for the first down. So I think it's going to be a good game. If I had gun to my head, I got to say I think Philly might pull it out.
Okay. Well, we'll see, man. It's going to be a great game. I was a little surprised with Cincinnati,
I was. So it was, obviously got history with the Chiefs, so excited to see them going, but you can't not cheer for the underdog. Yeah. I kind of liked how Cincinnati was like, F everybody. You don't want us here, we're going to be here. And to be honest, I thought they should have won the game. Here's where I would say that they messed up. Is in that situation, from a coaching standpoint, you cannot allow the Chiefs to get the ball back. You can talk about the missed penalties. You can talk about the do-over play, which I didn't know they had do-over plays. I'd take some do-over plays in my career if I could have them. But you got to look at, in that situation, you only need a field goal. So you're either kicking the field goal as time runs out, or you're going to overtime. At no point should you allow the Chiefs to have a chance to get the ball back. So I think they probably should have ran the ball, better.
Yeah.
And obviously Chris Jones came up big, when he needed to in the fourth quarter there. And, with the sack to kind of seal it. But, I would never put myself in that situation.
Yeah.
Use your run and pass game. You had all those things. You had 2 or 3 timeouts still too. So, I think there could have been some better clock management on that side because, in that situation, you either win it or overtime. You do not let the Chiefs have a chance to get the ball back.
Yeah. Well,
or you make them burn up all their timeouts, right?
Maybe it's time for a little Jared Allen coaching action.
Problem is they want you to have experience coaching, and they take they put so much time into that. It's probably not necessary or needed. My kids keep me pretty busy, but maybe after this curling run, if I don't make the next Olympics, then maybe we'll do something like that.
Well, you've got the it, and more than that, you're going to have the jacket here soon. So
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, Man, it's great having you back. Great having you here in person, and great hanging out. And
this has been fantastic. This has been more than I could have ever hoped for.
But I'm excited to see what you're doing in the bourbon space because I know you won't fuck around and do something stupid.
Yeah, and I think that's what I hope people understand. I've been nervous about whether I was even going to say I was a part of it or not, or how we're going to do it. But I think for me, it was the same way when I went into curling, right? Like, I think people know, but whatever I do full heartedly, and I'm not going to put something crappy out there, and that's why again when we went back and how we were going to do it, I'm like, man, you get too much financially invested on one side, then the juice suffers, right? So to be able to come up and work with MGP and have some strategic partners along the way that really could position us. It's been great, and I think the best part, it's truly organic. Like, what we're doing is totally organic. Like, we're just like, hey, if it generally tastes good and people love it and they want to buy it, great. If not, I think it's good. I'll have booze for
yeah. I mean, and also like you're a ways out. You don't have a name yet. You own the barrels. You got a lot of stock.
Yeah, we're just chilling. Yeah, we got we're in that fun space where nothing's rushed. And we get to kind of let the liquid lead us. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds cheesy, but it's like, having guys like you taste it, or, when you give it. And I like having people from all different backgrounds. You get only bourbon aficionados that taste it, that can pick it apart. That can be good or bad, right? You get only people that don't know anything. This is great. So we've gotten feedback from pretty much every demographic you can. Mm-hmm. And, for people that are like, 116 proof, they taste it, and all of a sudden they think it's going to be fire. And they're just like, I've never drank something that high. And then they realize, like, oh, crap. Or someone, hey, can I put a rock? Put a rock on it. See, let me know how that tastes, So we've really kind of run the gamut, and the feedback's been good. So, but that to me has been the fun part. Honestly, picking a name and selling it might be sad, because then you run out of it.
I mean, if you keep it for yourself, like you said, you get good Christmas gifts. So
good Christmas gifts, I'll keep it in this. Too bad, MGP just won't let me sell it in the MGP label.
It's so sexy.
Yeah, bottle and label. There you go, white cap and all.
All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming out. We got a few more things to taste here off camera, but. Let's plan a special, Jared Allen celebration here for when he gets in the Hall of Fame.
Done and
Anyone who's listening or watching, put in the comments or email me your favorite Jared Allen moment, and we'll include that in the party.
Ooh, I like it. I like it. Much appreciated.
Probably going to be the horse, like the riding off in the sunset.
I gotta admit that was epic. That was epic. And then the Vikings did it right, and they called me about coming back out on a horse. I was like, yeah, let's get it.
They know you.
Let's
like you said, good ownership.
Great ownership. It's fantastic.
Well, on that note, my friend, I don't have much left, but cheers to you.
Yes, cheers.
Good seeing you.
You too.
Vodka sucks.